Hello, everybody. This is Love from Above with your sibling spirit guides. I'm Maureen, and this is my brother.
Hey Maureen, hey everyone, this is Brian.
Welcome, everybody. We're so happy to be here. On this podcast, we share channelings we receive from star beings, ascended masters, mythical beings who really exist, and occasionally our ancestors. And Brian, I can't believe we have not covered this topic yet. We're talking a lot about star beings, and we've never gone into, well, I guess we have gone into a description of the watery beings, but this is all going to be about descriptions about star beings, how they live, how they mate, and wait for it, an invitation. Should you care to go visit them, we'll give you instructions on how to do that. So, what do you think about this, Brian?
Yeah, I know we'll have to talk about that. But I certainly said I was willing to accept their invitation. We'll get into that more. But yeah, love the topic. So why don't you get right into it?
Yeah, so this is something I thought I would cover that's unusual. It's unusual for the us, but it's very usual for star beings, and they most often do not have a name. So I'll just go through a few channelings I pulled with regards to this. On one occasion, there was a group, and they said there is no name for our group. We are nameless, though we serve the one creator with along with all beings of love. Another said, "Hello, we are pleased to come forth and introduce ourselves. We has of yet did not determined a name for ourselves. You may choose a name of your pleasing. We communicate without the necessity for individual identification. You may call us as I wish." And Brian, this reminds me so much of the book that we're reading called Humans by Matt Haig. And oh my gosh, reading this book, I was like, this author has channeled from the same source that we receive information from because it's about a star being who comes to Earth because a Cambridge professor solved the Riemann hypothesis, which has to do about prime numbers. So, and in this book, he says, the star being says, I don't have a name. Names are a symptom of species that values the individual over the collective good. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so this is, you know, for the most part, this is what we commonly hear is that they don't have a name. And even if you recall, I think the Watchers said, yeah, we're called the Watchers, but we don't really like that name, and that's not what we go by. But anyway, yeah, I all the different beings we've really talked to, most of them don't have names. Now there are some that do, and again, I think it's more for our sake than for theirs, right? There are different groups that have different names, but I think again, it's more for our context than for what they go by, right?
No, I think there are some that do have names. So the Arcturians, the Ashurian Brotherhood, the Palladian, we get the brothers and sisters of the Palladian Empire. So, I mean, those are definite, but there's so many that don't, I would say the majority don't have names. And you're right, every time we communicate with the Watchers, they go through this long introduction where they say, that humans call them the Watchers, but that's not the name that they like to go by. And so, so yeah, it is interesting. And then for the last one, this will be segue on to the next topic, is Aura, who we first communicated with for months. And they said, this was like 6 weeks of us getting daily channelings. They came through and said, we wish to introduce ourselves with the name Aura. We have spent time discussing this matter. We realize that names are common in your language, and we wish to participate in this custom. You may call us by the name Aura. So I just love that. They're adapting to our culture
Yeah,
by
yeah, absolutely. Uh, And so I'll go on to what they said. Then all about auras are the next topic. So this is again we did. It's been a while, and sometimes they pop up now and again. But it was like you said for about 6 weeks. They were one of the first beings we really had regular contact with. And so they said, we wish to discuss our relation to your planet in the solar system. We come from far away, too far to notice in your night sky. We herald from a distant planet that is similarly colored blue. Our waters are warm and welcome all who wish to partake of the healing nature that liquid solutions provide. We spend our lifetimes submersed in these viscous fluids which nourish and sustain us. We liken our fluids to a can of oil. The minerals which exist in our waters consist of unique properties that enable us to communicate telepathically with ease. So I know let's stop there. If you want to describe, I think you said you saw a vision of them. You want to describe what you saw when we saw them?
Yeah, so I used to, but they said that this was not accurate, but they would I
Okay.
would always see kind of like a jellyfish, like a like jellyfish figure and like tentacles coming around me. But they said that that was not an accurate was it that was not an accurate representative of who they are. But this is all very interesting because I think it's very different from what we think of as extraterrestrial life. Like for one, they are water beings. I mean, they live 100% submerged in oil, a water that looks like oil. So that's not what, like Hollywood depicts.
Okay.
Um, so I'll go on with what they have to say as they continue. They said their planet has three land masses, only one of which would be sustainable for human life. We say that you are indeed welcome to take part to travel to our native lands should you require additional healings. Now, I don't know how this is not the invitation we're talking about. We'll give you an invitation with directions later on. To partake of our healing rituals is to forsake what no longer serves the individual to grow in love for the group. So once again, we have that reference to group over the individual. We partake in rituals on a daily basis. We work in groups, yet are always assigned a different role to allow for flexibility and growth. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so they go on to say we're never static creatures. We're always seeking the love and the light of the one creator. Our traditional partnerships come in the form of a sexual union that produces offspring. We breed at certain times of the year. We produce many lives so that a few can survive. So that's very different as well, right, Brian?
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, that's sort of the cicadas that just were in the US. There's so many of them because they don't live very long and they just, that's how they survive is the numbers. They have so many that, even though a lot are going to be eaten, that um, that they will have people that survive or beings that survive. So this is interesting because they said many flounder in our oceans. There are predators who gravitate toward our young. For this reason, we spawn great numbers to sustain our population. So I always think of these, a lot of different beings come and talk about how they have, just this idyllic life and there's no negativity, but their offspring are being eaten. So this is not that doesn't sound great. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Don't most of the beings that come to us are like we all are in agreement on everything and there's no discourse, there's no disagreement and just pure
yeah.
love. And this is I thought yeah, I remember this and I was sort of shocked that this is what what they're about, but I don't remember. Do you remember what dimension they said there? I can't remember what.
No, they didn't. But I think that the next part is really interesting. Do you want to go into that about their physical bodies?
Yeah, our physical bodies are massive when viewed as a whole. However, the microcosm is minute. This may puzzle you academically, but the wider truth is that we exist multidimensionally. So let's stop there and why don't you explain that?
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, apparently, humans are multidimensional too. I mean, like our astral traveling at night is an example of us being multidimensional, but most beings are asleep too with regards to our astral traveling. But I just view that as I don't know, kind of like if you would look at a tree and you would look at the leaf as separate, but it's on a huge tree. So they have these individual beings, but then they're all amassed into a huge, greater being. Because they go on to say to see us in totality would be to see a monstrous being, but on an individual basis, we can appear quite small. What are your thoughts with regards to that?
Yeah, that is very interesting. And of course they work together and they're you know, it is really interesting, but uh it's just so different, like you said, from what, Hollywood depicts as like the extraterrestrial and what, so it's sort of hard to comprehend, but it is very interesting. Um
And then they go on to what you're talking about. They do, because they do go on to say that they work together in large homogeneous groups. Each member of the group serves a specific purpose. The allocation of decision making is rotated on a regular basis. We put this in another podcast because it was so, I think when we did on political leaders, because they
yeah.
said there are no leaders, presidents, prime ministers. We work together as one. Can you imagine?
Sounds good. Sounds good. We're a bit away from that, I would say, though. Um, yeah, it says our bodies are connected in greater numbers than a human brain can comprehend. We enjoy our attachment to our beloved brethren. That is, yeah, I just can't even. They said we can't even comprehend. So it is hard to comprehend, but um, it is really interesting. I tell you that. And what I was going to say that the other thing I was going to ask you about was were they the ones that had trouble communicating with you when you were in an area that had a lot of water around you?
Yeah, they had when I was in Montevideo, Uruguay, they had I had a lot of difficulty channeling with them, and they said it was because of the water that
You were surrounded
surrounded.
by, yeah. Isn't that interesting though? So, yeah, I don't
And I did
understand.
ask them, because I was just editing that part this week, for volume 1 of Love from Above, which will be coming out next year. And I did ask them, I said, what is interference? And they started to answer it. And they said the word government, and then there was interference. And they were actually doing a healing session on me. And they said, it's more important for us to do this healing session. So that doesn't really matter. So I didn't really know the answer to that, but it is interesting. So they had two sessions where that was one session when they went into all of this information about this. And then they gave us another session and they said, we are of one being. We work together to disseminate new information as the creator requires. We work together in harmony. There's no discourse in our nation, although they have that predator that's eating their children.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. We exist. Now, this was interesting. We exist beyond the realm of sight. Though you may catch a glimpse of us, they would, and I put in quotations, like they would look like an arc of light. They said, this is correct at the level of density in your planet. At a higher vibration, you would we would be seen more fully. So isn't it interesting? It's like anything in life, to see more fully, you have to ascend to a higher vibration.
Yes, that's what that. So they are at a higher vibration. I'm not sure what they are, but yeah,
Yeah.
um, which makes sense. But it says, yeah, we ask that you suspend any disbelief and trust the true nature of our gentle ways, which of course we do. We would be incapable of harming either soul participating in this great experiment. So we know that, and that's great.
Yeah,
And
but that was when this started. And, I didn't know who these people were. And channeling, like when you ch open yourself to channel, like you are opening up your being, like they are literally coming into my body. And so it's like, okay, who are these beings that are coming in
yeah,
and
right.
what are you doing? And that's what that's when we began this journey. And I was like, what's going on here? And they were like, no, it would be impossible to harm you. Um, but then, so that's our glimpse with regards to aura. But then there's a totally different glimpse of what Star Being's life would be like with the Palladian Empire. Brian, you want to go into this one?
Sure. So this was from October 17th, so pretty recent incident. Many wonder why disruptions erupt in their personal lives, affecting their jobs, their loved ones, their general attitudes. We say that this is an unusual case that often goes unrecorded in other worlds. We shall give you an example. We like to share our own home planet where we live in multiple group settings. These would be seen as claustrophobic to your general peoples. However, we are content when we are smashed up besides our dearest brothers and sisters. Um, so let me pause there, and I think you had some more to describe that, but I am sort of claustrophobic, and it doesn't sound great, but again, I'm sure it'd be very interesting to to to
Well,
experience.
I was going to say, brother, I love you, but I would not find it want to be smashed up right
Yeah,
next.
yeah,
I mean,
I'm with you. Yeah.
I do require my personal space. So, but isn't that interesting that they are only content like when they're literally like right up, smashed up next to each other? Again, just something very, very different.
Yeah, I know. It is really interesting. Again, hard to comprehend, but um, that's what they're saying. So I take them at their word.
Yeah, so here's another difference. They have more than a male female form. They have a third type of being. So I got that I don't know, I got that visual or I got that information and they said this is correct. That here's the big invitation. If you're listening and you would like to go visit them, they said we would like to invite those who would like to experience the generosity of a loving spirit that can occur in the other worlds. Brian, who would not want to experience the generosity of a loving spirit? Sign me up, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So they said this is as easy as a flick of a light switch. We come now to visit many of your kind, and we will invite those who wish to experience our native lands to make a request, and we shall abscond them during the appropriate slumber cycle. Now, I don't know what the word abscond.
I know. I think the same thing. But
I don't know about that, but the
I
rest of
know,
it sounds pretty good.
I know. But they go on to say, have no worries or fears, all shall be returned to the status quo. We provide an opportunity to experience what cannot be had in this general land. So we both agreed, but again, we don't have any memory of this. Do you have do you, any, you don't
I have no, well, you know what? How to differentiate one experience to I
have,
have like, major mystical experiences like all the time. So, yeah, how to differentiate one from the other, I have no idea. But yeah, I'm grateful for them to have. this opportunity. And for those who are listening, if you would like to experience, the difference of a loving land, you just need to make the request and they will come take you away at the appropriate slumber cycle.
And then smash you up
So
with the other people and I don't know. But all right, and then the next one is very interesting topics here. So, what's unique about human features? This was just a few days ago, or yeah, last week. Um, so we are most gladdened to use your physical vehicle for dissemination of important information for the humans on Earth. We call ourselves by a name unrecognizable in your primitive language. So same thing. The fingers are the most wondrous human invention. These fingers provide opportunities to grasp and hold and weave and drive. Many of your related star beings do not have the capacity to utilize these wondrous creations that exist at the end of your limbs. They should be truly cherished for the thoughtful process that were involved in making these wondrous inventions come to life. So that is interesting. I'll take that for granted that they said we should really appreciate um, our fingers and how unique they are. I guess that's unique to most star beings don't have anything like that as well.
well, what I find so interesting is like, what's prized in our culture, like for women, is the booty and the boobs. And no one's talking about the fingers,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oh my gosh, look at her fingers. Her fingers are among, and I don't know why I didn't include this in but part of the channeling was they actually suggested that you grow your fingernails long to have more use to have even greater use for the fingers, which I actually am doing. Normally, I was just very utilitarian for typing. I just had really short nails, but I'm growing them long as they suggested. But yeah, so it's just a whole different look on humanity, and it helps you to understand, what's different about them as well, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. It is really interesting. But they also they talk about how um, you know there was a thoughtful process involved in making this invention come to life, which is another so unique aspect of this that we take for granted. But and then the other thing is they go on to is so the knees are equally astounding for the ability to move at a faster rate than others in the universe. Another universe in the universes. We point to these gifts out uh, that humans take for granted. So we are nimble and fast. So we got a couple things going for us, people. So um,
Yeah. Yeah, so just very interesting. So I thought I would close this out with another thought from another group of star beings called Aurora. They said, "We are pleased to make your acquaintance. We are not often on this earthly plane. We have come specifically to speak to you and to a few others who have the capacity to hear our loving message. We bring forth this message that you may share with those who can understand our loving call. We wish to respond to the numerous messages asking for help. We are here. We hear the call. The time of conflict on the earthly plane is nearing an end. A juxtaposition of planetary alignments ushers forth a new era for those who heeded the call. We are duly placed as stationary pillars to provide needed support during this transitional time. Isn't that beautiful?
mhm. Yeah, and there's as we've talked before, there's so many beings here this transitional time. But yeah, we love it and appreciate the support. Yeah, there's so many different beings here. So, but Aurora, Aura. So yeah, it's amazing.
So I hope this has given all of you, our listeners, a little bit different version of what it looks like about star beings, and certainly different from what I expected. How about you, brother?
definitely, definitely. It's again, like we mentioned, it's sort of hard to comprehend, but it is very, very interesting. A great, yeah, great session.
Okay. We'll talk to you all next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye, everyone.